I'm Anna Wingate for Northwest Ecclesia. Fellowship is something we consider to be one of the primary elements of our ecclesia. Um, when we talk about fellowship, um, I don't think a lot of people understand the depths of intimacy you can go into with fellowship. So we're going to take a little more in-depth look at it today. But before we start, if you're looking for our information, a website, YouTube channel, email, it is at the end of this video. So now, down to the points. Fellowship is a word we've used for years. And you know, it's the old story of when you always hear it, you take it for granted. And there are a lot of things we think of when we think of fellowship. We think of Sunday morning service, we think of potluck. After church's service, we think of the church baseball game. Yes, it is all that. If you are involved in kingdom government, it can even be your times on benches and councils, if you understand what that is, or doing kingdom courtroom work. But there's still an even deeper level of intimacy with fellowship, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about intimacy with God and each other. When I was preparing for this, I do a lot of study. You will find that in the word fellowship, in the definition, is the word communion, and vice versa. If you look at the word communion, you're going to find fellowship in there. So, to help us with our shift in thinking, I use the word communion on this portion of our talk, because in there is intercourse and intimacy. Well, what does that mean? In Christianity, it means a level of depth and trust. It means maybe doing something that's disarming or uncomfortable with one another. I'll give you an example. Let's take the literal communion. A good activation is to have small loaves of bread or large rolls, and a glass of juice or wine for everyone. And bear in mind that, most of the time our fellowships are 20 people or less. So you're not talking about a room of 100 people. But you go to one another and you tear off a piece of bread from each other's loaves. And here's the point. When you do that, you look in each other's eyes. We look at people. In Western culture, we look at people. It's very uncomfortable to look in each other's eyes. Now, it's easy when it's your best friend, but if it's a person who has come to your group twice, it may be very disarming to have to look them square in the eye. But at the end of that type of communion, you will find that people have precious things to share. So I encourage you to try it sometime. How do we get to deeper levels of intimacy with God and each other? One of my favorite ways is through the Logos cycle. And you'll hear me talk about that. Logos, people say, what it really is to have God breathe something into you, to have God breathe a seed into you. That seed can be revelation. Examples of revelation are you've read the same scripture 100 times, and one day the light dawns and you have an aha moment. That's revelation. It's new information to you. Now, it can be new information to you that's come about in a surprising way. It could have happened to somebody 500 years ago. It could have happened to somebody else 1500 years ago. The point is, it's new to you. Um, the thing about it is, when you have that experience, there's usually a desire to want to know more, to learn. So you find yourself praying, you find yourself meditating. This form of meditation is to chew one's cud like a cow. You turn it over and over and over again within you. You may do reference study, Bible study, get out the interlinear, but you really, really learn about whatever that truth was. So the little sapling turns into a young tree. Now there's a point in time where that revelation bears fruit. And when that happens, it turns into the spoken word, and you can hardly wait to share it with your friends. And it becomes, guess what, guess what, guess what? And you're really excited to let your friends know what you've learned. Well, you just shared a piece of fruit with them. And inside of fruit is a seed, and that seed gets implanted in them. And they may be off and running, wanting to know and learn more. They may have the aha moment off of what they shared. The thing that also happens is usually your friends are the same maturity level you are, most of your friends. And they're going to want to turn around and share with you something they learned, and it may correlate to your revelation. And it may fit together and bless the both of you. That's a form of intimacy. You wouldn't do that with your dentist, unless he's a Christian. You wouldn't do it with the mailman. You do it with your closest friends, the people you trust. I'm going to take a moment to sidestep from this. Parents, your children can run to you with a new truth, something they've learned, and they won't. Guess what, Mommy? Guess what I learned? You know it. You already know it. But you're going to encourage them, honey, that's wonderful. What you don't do is, oh yeah, I read a book about that. Oh yeah, I already knew that. You encourage them. What happens if you're the one that always says, oh yeah, I already knew that? People quit sharing with you, because why bother? You already knew it. And unknowingly, you've cut off the logos cycle for yourself. So I encourage you, when you, in the process of fellowship, don't spoil the fruit. If a friend of yours shares something that you've known for 3 or 4 years, say, that's wonderful, and let it go. You'll see this cycle in your life happen over and over and over again. And the more you mature, the more it will happen. The more you seek the Lord, the more you pray in tongues, the more you study, it's going to happen over and over and over again. And it's one of the ways we grow, along with experience. Now, fellowship leads to family, leads to the family of God. Why has God done a lot of what he's done over the years? Because he wanted sons and daughters. God only sees sons. Now he knows that some sons are more mature than other sons. But the primary position that he looks at is his children. Not whether you're a judge, a seamstress, a lawyer, a truck driver. He says to people, see my son, my precious, adoring son that I love dearly, that I'm proud of. Now, synagogue, they came to community. The old, in Jesus' time, rarely was there a building. The bigger cities had buildings for synagogue, but synagogue was community in each other's homes. The same thing's true with kingdom government. You have a desire to be involved in kingdom government on earth as it is in heaven. You want to do legislation, decrees, court cases. You have to realize who you are as a child of God. And one of the ways is through fellowship, because it presents, true fellowship presents family. The 24 elders were God's family. They're not foreign dignitaries. They are God's children. True fellowship requires deep intercourse, intimacy, and trust. So I'm going to say it again. It is a primary element of true ecclesia. It's a primary element of small gatherings and home groups. It's harder to do when you've got 600 people in a room. It's easier to do when you've got 20 in a room. And those are my thoughts. I hope this has blessed you. And here's that information I told you about. So feel free to contact us. Get on our YouTube channel and watch our videos. We're going to be adding more and more as we go. And if you have any questions, send us an email.